"Can I share this table?" asked the one-legged CEO. Then she said something that made him cry. The cafe was loud with ordinary life when an extraordinary moment quietly took its place. A man with one leg stood beside a small wooden table, the metal of his prosthetic catching the light, his posture calm but heavy with memories. Across from him sat a young woman in a worn apron, her eyes tired from long shifts and longer silences. When he asked if he could share the table, he had no idea that what followed would reach into the deepest place of his heart and break something that had been sealed for years. Before we go further into this story of kindness, pain, and unexpected healing, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel KH Stories if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection. The man was known to the world as a powerful CEO, the kind whose name appeared in business magazines beside words like visionary and ruthless. But none of that mattered in this cafe. Here, he was simply someone who moved slower than others, someone whose body carried a visible reminder of a night that changed everything. Years ago, a car accident had taken his leg and, in many ways, his belief that life could still surprise him with goodness. Money had rebuilt his body with technology and his empire with numbers, but it had not repaired the emptiness that followed him everywhere, even into rooms full of people. The young woman at the table was invisible to most customers. She worked as a barista, but her dreams had nothing to do with coffee. Once, she had been a top student, full of plans and hope. Then life collapsed in small, cruel ways. Her father fell ill, medical bills piled up, and she dropped out of college to keep her family afloat. Every day she served smiles she didn't feel, listening to people talk about meetings and vacations she could no longer imagine. She had learned how to shrink herself, how to expect nothing, because expecting hurt too much. When the man stood there asking to share the table, she noticed his leg first, then his eyes. They were not the eyes of someone used to being pitted. They were tired, but kind, as if they had seen too much and learned to stay gentle anyway. She made room without thinking much of it, returning to her laptop, where spreadsheets of numbers told the story of someone barely surviving. Time passed quietly. Outside, the city moved fast, unaware of the slow, careful moment unfolding inside. The man glanced at her screen and recognized the patterns instantly. These were not the numbers of a cafe worker. They were the numbers of someone who understood systems, margins, and truth hidden in data. For the first time in a long while, curiosity stirred inside him, not the sharp curiosity of business, but the soft curiosity of a human being. What changed everything was not what he said next, but what she did. Without knowing who he was, without knowing his wealth or power, she spoke about his leg in the simplest, most human way. She spoke about her younger brother, who had lost the use of his arm in an accident, and how she had watched him believe his life was over until someone treated him like he was still whole. She said that people didn't need fixing as much as they needed to be seen. Those words did not arrive gently. They crashed into him. In that moment, the cafe disappeared. He was no longer a CEO, no longer successful, no longer protected by money or titles. He was the man in a hospital bed years ago, staring at the ceiling, convinced that he had lost more than a leg. He felt tears rise before he could stop them, surprising even himself. No one had spoken to him like that in years, not with pity, not with admiration, but with understanding. As they sat there, something shifted. He began to see her struggle the way she had probably wished someone had seen his. He learned, quietly and without drama, about her sacrifices, her abandoned education, her fear of dreaming again. And she, in turn, learned that strength did not always look loud or confident. Sometimes it looked like standing on one leg in a crowded cafe and still choosing kindness. When he eventually left, he did not offer her a job or a check or a miracle. He offered her something rarer. He offered belief. In the days that followed, her life began to change, not overnight, not magically, but steadily. Opportunities appeared where walls once stood. Someone recommended her for a scholarship fund he quietly supported. A door she thought was permanently closed opened just enough for light to come through. For him, the change was even deeper. He returned to his office with a different heart. He began to notice people instead of profits, stories instead of statistics. The accident that once defined his loss slowly transformed into the reason he could feel again.